Okay, today I'm going over lesson 2.5. You will be starting your final project this week. You have in Google Classroom, it says assignment 2.5. When you go there, you will have a blank layout of your student example. This is one I created. I will walk you through today what a final project looks like. So first, we're going to watch the final project. I'm going to let it play 2 slides through and then I will pause it and we will talk about what goes on. Again, this is just an example of what your final project will look like. Sophia Scholl was part of a student activism group called the White Rose. Sophia and her brother Hans were German teenagers in the 1930s. Like other young Germans, they enthusiastically joined the Hitler Youth. They believed that Adolf Hitler was leading the German people back to greatness. After Hans went off to medical school to the University of Munich, he witnessed a murder of Jewish civilians by SS troops on the Eastern Front. He and 3 other students decided to form the White Rose. Okay, so that's going to be slide number 1. So what you're going to do for this week, you only have to do steps 1 and 2. So slide 1, you can see these are your driving questions. So on the right is my script. So I had to edit a lot more of my script than I actually wrote. Yep. So on the right, let's fix that. All right, that should be better. Now you can see. We're good now? Yeah. Okay. All right, so on the right you can see my script. I had to edit that a lot. You only need about 75 to 100 words. That's going to be your 30 seconds. Each slide can only do 30 seconds. I will walk you guys through how to create your slides next week. All you're doing this week is filling this out. You're just doing your research this week. So what am I supposed to put in that first slide? I gave you the answers right here. So driving question. This should be, what drives your young person? Why are they doing what they did? So I gave a little background on who she was, how she got involved in these things, just a little bit of background, 75 words about who your activist is. And this is just going to be on one singular person. You also have to include 3 quotes. So here's my 1 quote and my citation. If you're pulling information from someplace, just make sure you put it in quotes if you're pulling the exact statement. And then go ahead and put it over here. That's using the eBib feature, which all of you guys should have loaded onto your computers. If you don't, please see me and I will help you do that. So that's slide 1. There's going to be 8 slides in total. Each slide cannot hold more than 30 seconds of talking. So again, this is going to be 75 to 100 words or less. I talk very fast, so I had a little less. The next slide, where and when does this happen? Germany, the year is 1942. Nazis and Hitler have been terrorizing Germany for almost a decade, and the hate has spread to other countries quickly. So much so that World War II began a few years earlier in 1939 in response to the hate and extermination of human lives in Germany under Nazi rule. Okay, so a little mistake there, totally fine. You just want to give background. So if you're talking about Hong Kong, what led up to that? You want to talk about that the British people gave Hong Kong back to China in 1997. What gives your thing context? So just don't jump into, if you're doing Black Lives Matter, don't just jump into one of the police killings. What are several of the police killings? What was Rodney King? What led up to this feeling of angst that created an activism movement? So that is slide 2. When and where does this take place? Who is the target of oppression? So going back to activity 2.4 and 2.3, these all had to identify who the targets of oppression are. So you're going to have a visual for your target of oppression, and then you're going to tell me who your targets of oppression were. This picture shows the stars worn by the people in the internment camps. Your quote-unquote offense determined your triangle. If you were a German political prisoner, you were assigned a red triangle, Jehovah's Witness a brown, homosexuals a pink triangle. Unless you were pure Aryan blood and agreed with the Nazi philosophy, you were a target of the Nazi oppression under Hitler. So if you're talking about environmentalism, environmentalism kind of affects everybody. So everybody who lives on planet Earth would be a target of the oppression. That's kind of the only one that's general. If you're talking about women's rights, is it all women? Is it old women? Is it young women? Who are your targets of oppression? All of this is written right here. So the reason I'm laying this out into steps is step one, which is this week and next week, will be the largest part of your project. So if you do your work today, this week, and over break, step one and step two, which is gathering all your evidence, is done. When you come back from break, you just have to put it together. We have to edit it, and your final project's done. So you have 2 weeks to work on your other classes. All right, so slide 4. Who are the oppressors in this situation? Find an image that represents your oppressors.
The Nazi Party was founded in 1919. It promoted German pride, anti-Semitism, and expressed the dissatisfaction with the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, which meant that anyone who was not of pure Aryan blood and did not believe in Nazi philosophy would need to be killed or put in a work camp. Internment camps were built all over Germany. Mass shootings, gas chambers were also used to control or murder the targets of oppression. Jewish businesses were boycotted, ransacked, and set on fire during the famous
Kristallnacht cut off. Remember, 30 seconds. So again, I had about 100 words. This does not seem like a lot of words, so write all your information down and then cut it down to 75 or 100. 2 types of activism. For all of our units, they're going to do more than one thing. It's not just that they organized a protest. They had to talk to people. They had to spread the word. They had to speak in public. So what are the different types of protests or different types of activism that your person engaged in, your activist?
Was a student activism group that valued nonviolent resistance. They wrote, printed, and distributed pamphlets that encouraged active opposition to the Nazi Party. They graffitied anti-Nazi propaganda on public property. In total, they sent out 6 leaflets with over 1,500 copies and distributed them in Munich and all around Germany by hand, mail, or carrier. The White Rose also began to establish contact with other resistance groups.
So those were 3 forms of activism. They printed, they distributed, and they wrote them. So you can write one, somebody else can be the printer, somebody else can be the distributor. Every part of that chain is taking part in activism. So name all the different types of activism that your person is involved with. And then you're going to name one big activism. So for this one, you can use what you used in 2.4. So if you're doing an activist that was involved in the umbrella protest, you can use the umbrella protest, but you want to highlight one specific protest. And then the following slide is going to say what happened as a consequence of that particular action. So this is my action that I'm going to talk about, and then the following slide is going to talk about what happened as a result of that action.
On February 18, 1943, Hans and Sophia Scholl brought a suitcase full of leaflets to the university's main building. They hurriedly dropped the sacks of copies in the empty corridors for students to find when they left the lecture room. Leaving before the lectures had ended, the Scholls noted that there were some more leftover copies in the suitcase and decided to distribute them. Sophia flung the last remaining leaflets from the top floor down into the atrium.
So I didn't talk about all the time they distributed pamphlets. I talked about the last time they distributed pamphlets. And what happened as a result of that?
This last act of resistance was observed by the university maintenance man, Jacob Schmidt. Hans and Sophia Scholl were taken into Gestapo custody. Sophia went to trial at Nazi People's Court, where she was found guilty of treason and executed by guillotine on February 22, 1943, along with her brother. As a result of their activism, they brought awareness to what the SS was doing and created allies among people who may not have spoke up against Nazi.
So she brought awareness to people, but also as a result of that last action, she was put to death. Your last slide is just going to be an overview. So the main project for this is we're redoing the SFUSD calendar. So instead of having Veterans Day, theoretically, we're going to take a day that honors your person. So this way it brings awareness around student activism and gives students more encouragement to be stronger. So what's the day you're going to choose? Are you going to choose their birthday? Are you going to choose the date maybe they were executed? Are you going to choose the date that they had a famous protest? Are you going to choose the date that a law went into effect that is what they wanted to protest? You can choose any date, but you're going to choose a date and you're going to just do a recap on your person.
I would like to honor Sophia on May 9th. May we remember her by the last words she said before she was put to death by the Gestapo. How can we expect righteousness to prevail when there is hardly one willing to give himself up individually to a righteous cause? Such a fine, sunny day, I have to go. What does my death matter? If through us, thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action.
So that's what I want to leave you with. All of these examples, all of these questions, all of these writing prompts you have now. So from now until we come back from break, December 2nd, you're going to work on step 1 and step 2. This is not going to go in order. Whenever you find an article and you're like, okay, that article tells me what happened as a result of that one thing, so I can put it here. It may not go in chronological order the way you find your resources. Please make sure you're writing a bibliography, so whatever website you're finding stuff in, put it on this side underneath the question side and use that APA cider. If you're copying and pasting a sentence, you should also put it in your text. But this is what we're going to work on. This is your whole final project 4 weeks ahead of time. So the next 2 weeks, this week and while you're on break, you're going to work on step 1 and 2. Do not touch Adobe Sparks. It won't make sense. I will walk you through the whole thing. It's really easy. But right now, all you're focusing on is getting your information and filling out step 1 and step 2 so we can be on target to get your project done without rushing. And that is this week.